Welcome to the Principles of Good Health podcast, where I provide you with straightforward and practical nutrition and lifestyle advice, helping you lead a happier, healthier, and more active life. I hope you enjoy the show. Well, welcome to another one of my videos or podcast if you're listening to this as a podcast. My name's Peyton of Peyton Principles, a really experienced naturopath specialising in gut health. I thought I would share an updated video of my stewed apple and why stewed apple is my number one food for gut health and taking care of the gut. It is my most watched video repeatedly on my YouTube channel, which is just wonderful. And I felt it was time just to recheck through the science and the information that's available to bring you the most up-to-date information for you. Now, I specialise in gut health, and for many, many years now, I have recommended stewed apple to my clients, not just to those with sensitive and irritated guts, but really for all people, because if you don't have an irritated and sensitive gut, it's going to be helpful for keeping it that way. But for those that do have a sensitive gut, I'm going to read on and tell you why it is just so valuable and why you should introduce it and embrace it in your diet. So first of all, I just want to say, why is it stewed apple and why not raw apple? Raw apple, this is a very valuable question I get asked. So let me explain why stewed apple is preferential. When you cook most plant foods, it helps to soften the really tough plant cell walls. And when your digestion might be slightly compromised, by softening those tough plant cell walls, you're easing the digestive process. It's also helping the release of valuable nutrients like vitamin C. And whilst on the one hand, we might be told that cooking can help destroy vitamin C, by cooking it in helping to release the nutrients, it's also helping the absorption of those nutrients into the bloodstream. And so therefore, cooking can outweigh the benefit of having it raw. But of course, it's very important from a digestive point of view. And the cooking also, by breaking down and softening the fruit, helps to release a really valuable soluble fibre called pectin that I'm going to go on and talk about. I do have a recipe that I share, and the recipe does talk about taking the skin off, because for sensitive guts, the skin will be an irritant. But it's really important to try and only take off the skin and try and retain as much of the fruit and the softer flesh underneath as possible, because very often a lot of the valuable nutrients lie just beneath the surface of the skin. So do bear that in mind. So why is it just so valuable for the gut? So I mentioned pectin a moment ago. Pectin is a soluble fibre, and you might have heard of pectin in relation to making jam. I'm not talking about making jam here, but when you have soluble fibre like pectin, the soluble fibre, in this case pectin, helps to draw water into the gut and into the stools and helps to keep them softer. That doesn't mean looser. It helps to just keep them softer, so it's easier to pass through. In both ways, by having softer stools, it can work both ways for people who can be a little bit more constipated, and sometimes for those that things might be a little bit looser, because it's helping to firm up the stools how they should be, but keeping them softer and easier to pass. And when the stool is in that form, it helps to cleanse the walls of the colon. So it can help to remove waste that's stuck on the walls of the colon, especially when things are softer, but even when things are too hard, and helps to get that waste out of the gut. We do not want that waste and those toxins lingering around. And also the pectin can bind to toxins. So when you're trying to excrete toxins or heavy metals or hormones that you metabolize, like estrogen, it helps to bind to them, helps to excrete them out of the body where you want them to end up, out of the body. So pectin for bowel regularity and keeping toxins, getting them out of the body, is absolutely wonderful. The second important role for apples, and in the form of stewed apples, is the fact that they're rich in a polyphenol called
called flavonoids, and in this case, quercetin. So lots of big words there, but quercetin as a flavonoid, when we think about all these compounds, they're plant-based compounds. What they're doing is they're protecting the plant from invaders, from pathogens, and they pass on these valuable properties to us. So how does quercetin work for our sensitive guts or for any guts? Well, quercetin acts as an anti-inflammatory and as an antioxidant. So when it's an anti-inflammatory, it sends signals to the gut, helping to calm down irritation, helping to calm down inflammation. You know, I see this a lot when with stool test results that I use in my practice, where we can measure levels of inflammation in the gut. And certainly when we've got too much inflammation going on, we want to calm that down. So apple in form of stewed apple is really valuable by helping to send these anti-inflammatory messengers to the gut. And as an antioxidant, it's helping to neutralize free radicals, protecting against cellular damage. Now, the other role it can help in here when there's irritation in the gut, when things get too inflammatory, we have this very valuable mucosal layer that's protecting the gut barrier. And in that when that mucosal layer starts to get stripped away, when there's too much inflammation going on, then it can start to encourage this leaky gut, correctly termed intestinal permeability. We want to keep that mucosal layer really, really healthy. If we get too much irritation going on, if there is leaky gut going on, it means that toxins can get into the bloodstream. It also makes the gut more irritated. But if we start to get compounds that can pass from the gut into the bloodstream, things like histamine and other endotoxins coming from the gut, we can then get a situation of systemic inflammation, inflammation and problems happening elsewhere in the body. So if you have eczema or hives, or you experience migraines, this can all be stemming from the gut. So we want to do everything we can to keep the gut healthy, to keep the gut mucosal barrier healthy, to stop leaky gut intestinal permeability happening. And the actions of quercetin and pectin are helping to feed the gut and keep it really, really healthy. The same way, this pectin is acting as a prebiotic fuel. This is not a probiotic. You might have heard the term prebiotics used more and more today. And what prebiotics do is, just like our body, our cells need to be fed nutrients to keep it functioning and healthy. The same applies to our gut microbiome. They need to be fed in order to fuel them so they can multiply and keep them healthy. Well, pectin acts as one of these prebiotic fuels. So certain types of microbes like bifidobacterium and bacteroids, they can feed off the pectin. That keeps them healthy. And in turn, it creates a compound called butyrate. Now, butyrate is extremely important and valuable for the health of the gut because it feeds those cells lining the colon and the gut, keeping the cells healthy, helping to stop intestinal permeability. And in turn, this butyrate is fueling and other microbes, helping to keep them healthy. So loads and loads of benefits of consuming stewed apple. Now, people are concerned about apple in relation to FODMAPs, and this is where things can get really, really tricky. I know for people, they will stay off all the FODMAP foods because it's helping to calm bloating, cramping, and problems in the gut. The problem is that when we stay away from all these FODMAP foods, you are starving the gut microbiome of the very foods they need to thrive, and you're perpetuating the problem. What we start to learn currently with the research is that if we can just consume minute amounts of these foods it can very, very slowly help to tip the balance in the favour of the gut of what we need. So if it is at all possible, my recommendations would be to you to try and have just a teaspoon of stewed apple on a daily basis. Ideally, what we need to be eating is 1 to 2 tablespoons every single day in the form of stewed apple. But if you can start by just drip feeding minute amounts of stewed apple into your diet on a daily basis in the form of just a teaspoon, even if it's half a teaspoon, and very, very, very slowly start to build that up, you are going to create a wonderful environment for the gut over time that it's exactly what it needs. So I do have a recipe for stewed apple that will be in the form of the blog on my website. So please take a look at that because I'm updating that recipe too. And I suggest you use that recipe alongside my advice here. And this in turn will really help to ease digestive symptoms, calm an irritated gut. And if you don't have irritated gut or digestive problems, it will really help to nurture and keep your gut healthy. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you found it helpful.
Thank you for listening. This is Caroline, the creator of the Peyton Principles Natural Health podcast series. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, please click like and subscribe to the entire podcast series.